Preakness is this weekend, and both Gino and Trey came on the podcast to share how they are betting it. Before we dive into the Preakness, the first thing I want to ask you is, what is your biggest takeaway from the Kentucky Derby?
I think that the best horses all ran really well. Some years the Derby, because it's a field of 20, maybe it can be crazy weather. I don't know if you always get the best horse to win the race, right? For example, Erik, sometimes in March Madness, it's one game, right? You can have an upset. But generally in the NBA, when you have a series, you're usually getting the better team to win after a 7-game series. I loved, as a horse racing fan, knowing that Sovereignty has been one of the top 3-year-olds all year, and Journalism has been one of the top 3-year-olds all year. And then Baeza was a horse who almost beat Journalism and ran really well and kind of the up-and-comer. So I just like seeing that 3 of the horses who were probably in the top 5 for anyone kind of all ran really well there. And there wasn't really anything fluky about the result. So I was, a fan of that, and I'd love to see a rematch. It sounds like the trainer and owners of Journalism are talking about if he were to run well this weekend, I think he'd have to win. That they haven't counted out the Belmont. So what could be really cool, Erik, is if we were to get a matchup of Journalism, if he wins the Preakness against Sovereignty after having won the Derby. So you could maybe get the Derby winner versus the Preakness winner after they ran 1-2 against each other, and they could maybe match up in the Belmont.
Which would be
awesome.
Unbelievable, which would be great. It would drive eyes to horsing, which is always good. One quick question, follow-up question to that. Do you feel the best horse won? Just because I was heavily invested in the 21 horse. Watching the replay, he did get caught up a little bit.
I think the best horses ran well. I absolutely could make a case for Baeza. Burnham Square was another one who had some trouble. Some of these horses had legitimate trouble, and they could have been closer. Things might have been a little bit differently. But I sort of know where you're getting. Coming out of the Derby, Baeza might be the horse that you kind of are the most interested in, right? Because he had a tough trip. He's still a later developing horse, and he won't be running this weekend in the Preakness. He should be running in the Belmont too. How cool would that be? Your top 3 finishers all back. And as we're talking about, Baeza could absolutely turn the tables on those 2 horses with just a little more improvement and maybe not having to be way out wide there. Or, he won't be a number 20 spot in the Belmont. There won't be that many horses. So yeah, that was the best horses ran their races. Things could have been slightly different, but Baeza was probably one of those horses, and I think Burnham Square was probably another one where if you bet them, you may be thinking, I could have been a little closer. Maybe I might have had a shot.
Now, you mentioned the Derby winner. I guess I really don't understand, as someone that's not knee-deep in the sport like you are, why he's not running here. Can you just explain to me why, in the simplest terms, why they elected not for him to run?
Yeah. So a couple things. First, the trainer, Bill Mott, he is not a trainer who's ever been the type to run his horses back really quickly. He generally spaces things out. He's a really good, it's coaching, Erik. You have been someone who's really showed me the importance of coaching and offensive lines and stuff like that when it comes to other sports. And he is a fantastic trainer, but he's a really patient trainer. He doesn't rush horses into things. He will kind of work with horses in the mornings and when they're not in races, and then you can see them really develop. So I don't know if he was one of the types of trainers who was ever going to really run a horse back quickly. And then a stat that I saw that was actually posted by Nick Tamero, so I want to give him some credit. In the last 5 years, with horses that are returning in 14 days or less, Bill Mott is 3 for 58 and 0 for 4 in graded stakes races. Oh. So he himself as a right. So he himself as a no, he's not very good when they have short rest. And this particular horse is a horse that they've spaced things out with. So the trainer, it's not really something he does well. The particular horse, they don't necessarily think he would do it well. And when you think about sort of the long term, He's actually owned by Godolphin, and they are basically the people that created the Dubai World Cup. They would love for this horse to be running as a 4-year-old, and they would love for him to have a chance to run maybe next year in like the Dubai World Cup and maybe the Saudi Cup and some of those really, really big races for huge money. So they feel like not running him back quickly will just give him more time to kind of grow and develop. So I understand all of why they're doing it. From right there, we just showed you the stats of Mont, the reasoning for the particular horse, all of that. The bummer is it's just it's disappointing for a horse racing fan. It's disappointing when horse racing had a really good Derby. The ratings were awesome. The handle was up. There were a lot of eyes on the race, and there wasn't any kind of bad vibes or bad energy coming out of the race. Everybody sort of felt really good about the result. The winning trainer, the winning jockey, the winning owners are all like longtime veterans who have been putting a ton of time and hours and money into the sport. It just, you want to have the Derby winner always at least try to win the Triple Crown. And it's disappointing when they're not. And not that I'm saying I ever want a horse to be hurt, but he's not hurt. He's healthy. He theoretically could run. They just don't think that would be the best for him. And Erik, it reminds me of, as I sit here, as you and I are recording off to the side, Oklahoma City and Denver are playing. It just reminds me of the NBA, like load management, right? You see so many players, baseball, the pitchers, starting pitchers getting extra days in between. It's kind of gotten into horse racing too. You just don't see horses running back as quickly anymore. They don't run as many times in a year overall. So it's kind of like it's like a large scale issue. But then in particular with this particular trainer and this particular horse, it just would have been very unlikely that he was going to run back. So disappointing for sure, because it was such a good Derby and we'd always love the Preakness winner to come. And honestly, for a lot of people that aren't in the hardcore, they lose a little bit of interest when the Derby winner's not going to run in the Preakness. They just don't care quite as much. But as you were pointing out, it could be really cool if we were to get maybe like a Derby winner against a Preakness winner in the Belmont. That would be like a really good storyline, I think, to get people that weren't as hardcore really intrigued for the Belmont.
Now, Journalism is listed as a morning line favorite at 8-5 after finishing second in the Derby. Do you expect a rebound performance here?
I mean, he didn't even run bad in the Derby, right? I mean, it was a good effort. He just lost to a horse who ran really well that day too, and Sovereignty might have just run a little bit better. If Journalism is like 80% of as good as he's been in his last 4 races, he's going to win this race. The counter would be like with a lot of teams, Erik, when they play on a back-to-back. How a lot of times the best team doesn't win that back-to-back, right? They'll lose to an inferior team because maybe they just don't have that same oomph, right? They don't have the same like spark the next day after having played the night before. That could be the case for Journalism because remember, he had to travel from Santa Anita to Kentucky, then from Kentucky to Baltimore. So he ran just 2 weeks ago. It's going to be, the first time in his career where you're going to have to see him turn around that quickly in a race, right? He ran with like 3 weeks in between races in October and November, but we've never seen him have to do this. So for Journalism, for Sandman, for American Promise, they all ran in the Derby. And then even goal-oriented, he did not run in the Derby, but he ran on the same day as the Derby. So all of those horses coming back in just 2 weeks, there's a very real possibility that they might not be as sharp late in this race, right? They might be a little dull. And that would be the way that Journalism gets beat. Because to be honest, Erik, if he showed up and ran his best race and everybody showed up and ran their best race, he would win. And he probably should be like 2 or 3-5 in this race. But I don't think he's going to get bet that low because nowadays in these races, the money kind of gets spread around. Like I think people look at the numbers on the board and nobody ever gets too high anymore. Because if anybody's 50-1, few people go, oh, I'm going to bet a few bucks on him. And we just don't get horses that get up that high. So Journalism, even if he's like 6-5, that actually might be like an overlay. That might even be like higher than he should be. It just comes down to, are we going to see the Journalism we've seen the last 4 races? Because if we do, he's going to be really, really tough to beat. If we see a Journalism that might not have that same spark, that's where you can try to beat him.
Now, you mentioned goal-oriented. The Baffert trained horse is running after winning an allowance on Derby Day. He's 2 for 2 this year, showing versatility, coming from behind at Santa Anita, going gate to wire at Churchill on the sloppy track. You know, my questions to you about him are, what do you make of him? Are you surprised he's back so quickly? And do you feel if Rodriguez wasn't hurt, this would be Rodriguez in this race?
So that's a couple really good questions. First, they announced that he was going to run before they announced that Rodriguez was out, but it was very close. It was like they announced he was going to run, and then the next day they said Rodriguez was out. So they may have already known, like, hey, yeah, you know what? It doesn't look like Rodriguez is going to make this race. Let's put goal-oriented in there instead. I do think from a tactics standpoint, you probably didn't want to have both of them in there. I think both of these horses, like Rodriguez and goal-oriented, would have been horses that are being sent to the front with their running style, kind of put right to the lead. So, I mean, I respect what he's done, and it's kind of remarkable, Erik. He just debuted on April the 6th. So within like 6 weeks, he goes from winning his first race to winning his second race, and now he's in the Preakness. You really don't see that very often for horses like this quickly, because most of the horses that are like on the Kentucky Derby trail have been running throughout the whole year. You know, they've been running in prep races in different spots. He just got good really quickly, and Baffert's like, why not, right? I don't have another horse in here. Like, let's give him a shot. He's only 6-1, and he draws the rail. He gets Flavien Prat. So I respect everything he's done. He's going to have to run a little bit faster just based on like the buyers and the speed figures. So that would be a negative. A positive, Erik, would be he has won on a sloppy track. He did win, you know, the day that the Kentucky Derby had that sloppy racetrack. So we've seen him run that way if it's wet out here. It was sloppy the last couple days at the track, but it's not raining Thursday night as I'm sitting here right now. I'm worried about the other speed in the race, Erik, because he's drawn down to the inside, and I'm pretty sure American Promise, he's got to go. He just had a bad start. He was really unlucky at the start of the Kentucky Derby. I think he's going to go and get sent. I also think that the number 8, Clever Again, he wants to go. He's won 2 races, and both of those wins were when he was right on the front end and he was cruising. So I think they're going to try to get him to the front. So we may have 3 horses all trying to get the lead. And if that's the case, it might be pretty tough for goal-oriented, being this lightly raced horse with a couple other fast horses pushing him. I just don't know if it sets up all that well for him.
Now, journalism. My thing is he the single here? On paper, he's the fastest horse in an easier field. Can he get the job done on the short turnaround? So meaning in my pick 5s, pick 6s, do I just throw him in and he's my single?
Generally, if you like a horse that's a short price, I would pretty much always tell you to single them. Like strategy-wise, that's the right thing to do, because if you like them and you think they're the most likely winner, you don't really want to double or triple the cost of your ticket, right? Because things can start to get really expensive if you're playing a big ticket on a day like the Preakness. I will say, in this particular circumstance, I want to use at least one other horse just in case we don't see that same journalism, just in case that 2-week turnaround really does get to him a little bit and he's just not quite the same horse. And if that's the case, Erik, I'm going to use one of the other horses that's not running in the Derby, that didn't run just a few weeks ago. Because if my angle for why journalism could lose is that it might be the quick turnaround, I'm going to use a horse that doesn't have that quick turnaround. I'm going to use a horse that might be a little fresher and might be like a little bit fitter, like stronger late in the race, or maybe be able to just get the jump on journalism. So completely respect him. He's going to be in my tickets. I'm only going to use 2 horses, like in my pick 5. He's going to be one of them. So normally I would tell you either single him or you're trying to beat him. Like generally, this isn't the best strategy to use him and a couple others. But for me, the specific circumstance of the quick turnaround is why I just want to make sure I've got one other horse along with him.
American Promise had to come from off the pace in the Derby. Do we just toss this effort, or did we learn something from it? My question to you, now, no disrespect to him, okay? is he a legit contender here, or is he more of kind of like a grade 3 stakes type horse race?
That's what I think for right now. I think you nailed it. And two separate things, right? He didn't get a fair trip in the Derby. He had a bad start. Citizen Bull was the number 1, and he came out, and then a lot of the horses that were down on the inside, they got bumped around. He was behind horses. He kind of made a move down on the inside. It just wasn't a great trip for him. Remember, Dwayne Lucas, this is crazy. He's won the race 7 times. Baffert's won it 8. But Dwayne Lucas has won a Triple Crown race in 5 decades, Erik. He won his first Triple Crown race in 1980 with Codex. He's won a Triple Crown race. That was the Preakness. He won the Preakness, Belmont, and Derby all in the 90s. Then in 2000, he won the Belmont with Commendable. In 2013, he won the Preakness with Oxbow. And then in 2024, last year, he won the Preakness with Seize the Gray. So the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. He has won a Triple Crown race in all 5 of those decades, which is just crazy. I don't think American Promise, based on what he's shown, based on the field, I don't know if he's good enough to win this race, Erik. I think he can be a real, he can have a real factor in what happens because he might be one of the big speeds. Like if he is in the mix and battling with goal-oriented and clever again, that could really set up for other horses. Hey, for some reason, if clever again has a bad start and then goal-oriented gets bumped a little bit and American Promise winds up loose on the front end, that could be the way that he wins this race. But there's a lot of things that would probably have to play out for that to happen. And I don't know if I could use him, Erik, in 3rd and 4th in the tries and supers, because he might be a horse who's showing some speed and then who could hang around for a piece. But he would really have to win the battle of the other speeds and then hold off Journalism and River Thames and Sandman and others. So I have a hard time getting to him. But the coach, Dwayne Lucas, his trainer, who I mentioned, he's won this race 7 times. And the jockey, Nick Juarez, who's from Maryland, is going to be riding in his first ever Preakness. So you've got a legendary trainer with a jockey who's a hometown jockey who's going to be riding in it for the first time. So really cool story.
Heart of Honor lost to Admire Daytona last out. And that's the horse that finished last in the Derby. In my eyes, that just makes him an automatic toss. Am I thinking about him the wrong way?
You know what? Using company lines like that is what a lot of people do in handicapping. The only thing I would say is that sometimes the Derby is such an outlier of a race because there's 20 horses and all these things happen that you may not always just want to use what happened in the Derby as your end all be all. But I think, Erik, what you were pointing at is for me, it was as much kind of going into the Derby. Because even going into the Derby, it's not like Admire Daytona was thought of as one of the top players in the race, right? He wasn't really even talked about the best of the Japanese runners. Luxor Cafe was the one that I think a lot more people were interested in. So I'm a little concerned about the company, just exactly what you're talking about. I don't know how good these horses are that Heart of Honor has been facing in the UAE Derby. Just don't know. It doesn't seem like they were as good as last year when Forever Young won that race and then came over here. So I'm a little worried. Let me give you a couple positives about Heart of Honor, though. He could have run in the Kentucky Derby, and they decided, you know what? The Preakness will probably be a more logical spot, like the Derby with 20 horses. That's a really hard race to win. Let's just aim for the Preakness, and let's be our plan to point for that. So I like when connections like a trainer or owners decide yep, we're going to go for that race and maybe even skip this one. So they have that in their corner. But and another cool thing, 23-year-old daughter is going to be riding for her father here. It's a father-daughter combo riding in the Preakness, which is the first time it's ever happened. So that's just a really cool story for these two teaming up in the Preakness.
Next, let's shift our attention over to Pay Billy. Look, you know what? He's red hot right now. He's won 4 of his last 5. But when you look at his speed figures, they really don't stack up. Is he peaking at the right time, capable of pulling off the upset? Or is he more of an underneath horse? Could he miss the board completely? On one of the offshore sites I use, he's the betting favorite to finish last.
Okay, so he would actually be a horse that I would use at, like, there are two long shot horses that I think could maybe hit your try, hit your super. And I think he's one of them. I would have a hard time seeing him beat the other 8 horses in here. Like, some things would have to go wrong for them. But the positives about Pay Billy, if you're looking at the video and you're looking at the races here that we are showing you, even if not, if you pull up the DRF past performances, you can see when the races got longer, he's been really good. He has won 4 of his last 5 races, and the only race he lost in that stretch, he lost by a nose. He's not been facing horses that are this good at all. But what's the positive is he has a really nice running style where he kind of puts himself in the race. He's not the fastest horse. He can kind of sit really close and then pass horses. If you're looking for a long shot, that's kind of the running style you want for a long shot. You want your horse to kind of be involved, be in the race. Maybe some things happen where some of the other horses get caught in traffic, and he's there. At least he's in a good spot to where he could kind of fall into 3rd or 4th. So I actually think he's one of the more fun long shots to use. I don't think I could use him even in a pick 5, Erik. It would mainly be like the 3rd spot, in the 4th spot, in the tries and the supers.
Now we get to River Thames, has talent, but when I look, this is what I see. I see he came up short of the Fountain of Youth, short in the Bluegrass. And my concern about him, does he want the distance? Didn't really look great going the mile in the 8th. What's your read on him?
Why I think he's interesting is kind of what I was mentioning with the plans for this. So he runs 2nd in the Fountain of Youth, and he honestly, he looked like he was going to win that day. He got like a couple length jump on Sovereignty, and Sovereignty nailed him right on the wire. So if you're thinking about like overall who's sort of the best of these horses, kind of Sovereignty and Journalism have been towards the top of the group. So if River Thames was able to finish close with Sovereignty, I think he kind of fits off of that. He also finished in front of Burnham Square in that race, and then Burnham Square came back and beat him the next time in the Bluegrass. Initially, I kind of thought what you did too, Erik. Like, I don't know how far he really wants to go. Ultimately, maybe he's a horse that is just best at like a mile or so. But why I do still think I want to give him a shot. You know, that was just his first start going a mile in an 8th. He only had the one start going a mile in a 16th before. And then so he's just been progressing a little bit. I like when you get that progression on the distance. I also just like the fact that after the Bluegrass, right away, they said, we're not running in the Derby. He could have run in the Derby. He would have been like 20-1, you know, and who knows how it would have fit. But instead of being like 20-1 in the Derby, he gets to come here and be like 4-1 in a way better spot. So I think he's going to get a great trip, Erik, too. The horses that we talked about showing speed, right? Like if the 1 goal-oriented shows speed early, and the 3 and the 6 and the 8, you might be able to sit like 4th or 5th right behind those horses, and then kind of move before Journalism, move before Sandman and some of the deeper closers. It's crazy to think Todd Pletcher has never won the Preakness. Irad Ortiz Jr. has never won the Preakness, either separately or together, anything. And they're two of, like, if you're making a list of the best 5 trainers and the best 5 jockeys over the last 10 years, they're on everybody's list. Like, for sure. No doubt about it. So it's kind of crazy that they haven't won a Preakness. I just got a weird feeling that they've been working with this horse to try to just get him to relax a little bit more. And I think we're going to see it this week. And so to me, of the new horses, of the horses I'm, you know, if you're trying to beat Journalism, I think he's the most interesting horse. And I actually played a future wager on him a couple weeks ago. I got, it's called the Preakness Future. And I got 25-1 on him in that wager just a few weeks ago. So if he just gets into the starting gate, I already feel really good, right? That's what we're looking for as gamblers, right? That kind of like value. And you play a lot of futures on, you know, Super Bowl winners or division winners and things like that. Like, so I think value-wise, he kind of fits. I think he could get a really good trip, Erik. He's like a real interesting horse to me.
Now we have the social media choice, Sam. Short rest was the second choice in the Derby, but didn't really fire. What do you expect from him here? Do you expect improvement? Like I mentioned, the social media following. He could be overbet. Is that going to create value on other horses?
It kind of did in the Derby, right? Like he ended up being the strong second choice, and he probably was a shorter price, a little shorter than he maybe should have, and Sovereignty gave some value. I really like that the connections decided to run him here, because I think what happened, Erik, was, they ran the Derby. He ran 7th. He was just really far back, and it was a sloppy track. Who knows? There could have been a couple of reasons why he didn't run his best race. But I think they look at the field, right? And it's like, okay, Sovereignty's not running, but Journalism is. And then after Journalism, it's some new horses and other horses that we are more accomplished than. Like, why shouldn't we go try to run in the Preakness if we can and be like the second choice? So even if I don't personally love his win chances in the race, because I just think the way it sets up, he's so far behind Journalism and like River Thames. I think those horses will be able to get a real jump and a head start on Sandman. I picked him 4th when I got to put like a top 4 selections in. So I do think he'll still come closing and pass horses. We got to remember, like, his Arkansas Derby was really good. So he's certainly capable of winning the race. And I'm glad for horse racing just that he's in here, because he's a big name and he has been towards the top of the division all year long. I'm a little bit worried that, he just comes running late for like a good 3rd or 4th, not beaten all that much. I think he'll run well though. And I applaud Mark Casse for running him. And as you were pointing out, Griffin, who's got a huge social media following, he's like really, really embraced the racing stuff. A lot of times you'll see some of the people who get involved, or who maybe like a part owner, or maybe get brought in as like an influencer. They'll do a few things, but you can tell they're not really like invested. He is the opposite. Like, he's there at the barn all the time. He's been really gracious with his time. He's been like responding to people who've been asking him questions and stuff. So I give them a lot of credit. And I love seeing, people like that with a huge following get involved in the game. And so far it's been really positive what he's been doing.
Clever, again, is very intriguing to me. You have Jose Ortiz on board, has the speed figures, including a 101 in the Hot Spring Stakes. Very competitive with Journalism and speed figures. This is a big step up in class, though. From the outside post, do you think he could flash early enough speed where he could hit the board or even like pull the upset?
So you were kind of hitting on it, right? His 101 buyer, there's only Journalism has run faster than that. So he's got the second best buyer speed figure in the field. He's only making his 4th start, so he's really lightly raced. Like, if he's still improving and can take another step forward, he might kind of be that wild card where maybe he has a race better than Journalism and we don't even know it yet. He hasn't really had to kind of push himself in the last couple races. He beat a horse named Gaming, who hasn't been like in as good a form this year, but Gaming was second in the Breeders' Cup last year behind Citizen Bull. And then he ran into Journalism and he finished behind Journalism. He's kind of not been as good this year. He was more of like a kind of precocious horse who was really good early on last year. But he to me is the hardest read in the race, Erik, because his, just like on the ratings and stuff, he's capable of competing with a horse like Journalism. I'm just worried about the setup. Now, I prefer him to goal oriented. If you are a speed horse and you have early speed, you want to be drawn to the outside in a race like this, because you can look over and see what the other horses are doing. Like, okay, if American Promise is going really, really fast, then I think Clever again would try to like sit maybe just outside of him and not necessarily battle with him. But for goal oriented, like if American Promise starts really fast, it might force goal oriented to try to go from the inside and keep up with him. So he was the hardest, like, for me to get a real feel for, because I respect his ability. I'm just a little bit worried about the setup.
Now outside we got Gosker 20-1, seems high. He won the Stone Streak. It appears to be improving. Is he capable of shocking the world here? Or is he more of, hey, you know what? I'm going to be playing him underneath journalism to create some value?
I think he's a very fun underhorse, kind of like what I was talking about with Pay Billy. I actually like him a little more than Pay Billy. I don't know if he could win, but I picked him third, and I'm going to use him in like all of my tries and stuff. There may even be like one small ticket on a pick 4 or pick 5 where I throw him in case he does, because he really hasn't done much wrong in his career. And in his 3 races, he's won 2 of them, and they're a little bit lower on speed figures than some of the rest of the group, but he's won his races pretty easily. And another one where maybe he just hasn't been pushed quite yet. And maybe when you step up and compete with the better horses and you're pushed, you can continue to ascend. I just really like his running style from the outside. I could see him sitting like right where I think River Thames is going to sit. Maybe just behind those horses who go to the front. Could Gosker like let the 8, let the 3, and let the 1 go, and then could Gosker and River Thames be like 4th and 5th, and both of them are kind of sitting right behind the leaders, and neither one of those horses has to go wide or anything like that. Yeah, I think he's kind of a fun long shot to include, Erik.
Now, for those listening to this before the Black-Eyed Susan, my last question to you is, what's the Black-Eyed Susan Preakness double? Again, I love playing these little daily double races that are back-to-back. What's your bet in that?
Okay, let me pull up, and I can even pull up the Black-Eyed Susan as we talk about it for just a second. So let's get rid of Saturday for a sec. And we will go to pull up Friday. So Black-Eyed Susan is going to be race number 13 on Friday. And there are some of these wagers that you can make, like 2-day wagers, like the Black-Eyed Susan. I think they have a pick 5 even that you can play both days. It's a really kind of interesting group, a pretty big group too. Liam in the Dust has some speed from the inside. So does the 6 Paris Lily. There's not that much early speed in this race, though. The 4 Running and Gunning is the 5-2 morning line favorite. I don't know if he's fast enough early and if the race is going to set up for him. The one who I really like in here, Erik, is the 3 Margie's Intention. I just think she could get a great trip. She has a little bit of speed, but she's more of like going to sit 4th or 5th and then try to finish late. And one of the horses that she's been running against recently that she lost to a couple times is named Blue Fire. Blue Fire ran really well a couple weeks ago on the Kentucky Oaks Day when she finished 2nd in the 8 Bells, which is a really good stakes race. So I think the competition level that Margie's Intention has been facing is actually pretty good when you kind of stack it up with this group. So she's the one who I really like. And how about like this number, Brad Cox with horses. So this is a horse who's coming into the Brad Cox barn for the first time. You can kind of pull it up and see what's really cool when you have the past performances here, the ones that are called all access past performances. You can go to the database just like this and like change the stats however you want. So you can go to like a trainer change and you can, put it how you want. So this is Brad Cox, first time after a trainer change with the new horses in his barn. Over the last 5 years, he's 31%. So, and when you go over the last 1 year, it's even bigger than that. I think it was like 38. Yeah. So the last 1 year, when there's a horse that comes into his barn for the first time, he's won with 21 out of 56, 38%, and 70% of them finish in the top 3. So it's like, like a coach or like a think about it. I say trainer, but if you think about it from like a workout program, right? Like if you're a conditioner, you get into a different program with a trainer who does things a little bit differently. And he just seems like he can find the things to really improve with horses. Like, what do they need? Do they need a little blinkers change? Do they need to maybe go on the grass instead of on the dirt? Like, he figures it out. And I think, maybe if he can just move this horse up at all, she's going to be really tough. So the way I played it, Erik, I went 3 with 2-6. I singled Margie's Intention, and then I went 2-6 with journalism and River Thames. I didn't want to use too many horses in the Black Eyed Susan because if journalism wins, the double's not going to pay very much, right? So that's how you want to do it. You just want to make sure you don't want to bet too big of a double if you're playing journalism, because if he wins, the double's not going to pay all that much.
Yeah. It should be a fun race. Always enjoy doing these where I'm able to kind of pick your brain and, get your insights on all this stuff, my man.
Yeah, man, a lot of fun talking with you. I love doing these interviews with you. And for anyone else out there who wants to follow Erik and check out some of his stuff, Etoft21sports all over the place. That's the YouTube channel too, right? Where you put a lot of your stuff out?
Yeah, Etoft21sports all over social media, TikTok, X, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, you name it. That is where you can find me. If
you're a sports bettor, Erik will be a huge help to you. You want to follow him because, he will put out videos and written analysis for football, baseball, basketball, college football, college basketball. There'll be some WNBA, NASCAR, UFC. He literally knows all the different sports, will always be trying to find value for you. So if you're ever someone looking for some help, coming up now, we're already starting to think NFL draft just happened. Erik puts out fantasy football rankings and ratings. So Erik, buddy, you've taught me a lot through the years. I hope you have an awesome weekend coming up at the Preakness. And thanks again, buddy.
Thank you, my friend.
Everyone, we appreciate all of you hanging out with us. We'll try to do a little bit more videos like this, especially with the Belmont coming up, and then with like big racing from Del Mar and Saratoga in the summer. It's always nice because we have videos with David Aragona and Mike Beer and some of our expert handicappers where they'll really dive into the weeds. And if you're like the highest level of handicappers and gamblers, you'll enjoy those. But sometimes those are probably a little too advanced for people who might not know all the terminology or might not understand exactly what those really advanced guys are talking about all the time. So sometimes we can help you out, and maybe we can bridge the gap from you being like a new fan to a more frequent fan. Make sure you head to shop.drf.com to get those Preakness past performances. Good luck this weekend.
Make sure to give Gino a follow at It's Me, Gino B. And a reminder to check out drf.com for some great sportsbook bonuses. Now, let's welcome Trey, host of the First Wire podcast, to the Etoft21sports Podcast and hear his thoughts on betting the Preakness. We have reached the part of the podcast when we're talking some horse racing. Who better to come on than Trey, host of the First Wire podcast. Trey, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
You know what? Big storm out here in Chicago. Not going to lie. Totally effing up with the internet. So if I drop you, you know what? We're supposed to start a little while ago, so hopefully it doesn't happen and interrupt the recording again. But I'm surviving, man. I'm surviving.
Oh, good. Good to hear that.
Surviving. Tornadoes in I've been in two tornadoes, excuse me. So luckily didn't make it number 3. So yeah, it's a little crazy here, but we're good. Props to you. You came on last week. You gave out 2 bets. Both of them were winners, straight money, and both were winners when you came on the week before for the Kentucky Derby. So we're going to look to keep it going. We're going to start with your bet of the day, which is race 10 at Pimlico. Pimlico. I can't even pronounce it. The Sir Barton Stakes. Tell us what horse you like here, my friend.
Yeah, so in this race, let me just preface a little bit. The Sir Barton Stakes is a 3-year-old race, and it's 3-year-olds only. So you might see a couple of these horses maybe a little later down the line at Saratoga or something like that in the bigger races. But these are for horses that haven't matured enough yet to make the Preakness. So I'm looking forward to number 6, Invictus, for Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt. This horse, if you go back and watch its first race, it was a handful in the pre-race. Basically ran its race before the race began, was flipping around in the post-parade, etc. Then came back at Keeneland and romped. So I'm looking for another big effort. The one horse on the rail is going to take a lot of money for Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez. That horse went gate to wire at Keeneland as well. But I'm not quite sure it beat much. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot against that and say that number 6 is going to be my top pick.
Yeah, I mean, I love this one. I think there's actually some money to be made in this race because you can play a couple of these horses that are just huge prices underneath. Maybe you could hit one, but I absolutely love this bet. Let's shift our attention over to the second leg of the Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes. First of all, before we dive into it and you give your thoughts, I need to ask you, no sovereignty. He is not running. What are your thoughts on that? Are you disappointed? Like, where's your head at?
Obviously, as a racing fan, I'm disappointed because I'd love to see a triple crown potential. But for the good of the horse, all that being considered, I don't blame the connections one bit for giving the horse a little bit more time. This horse has a huge late kick, so as that's concerned, the Saratoga mile and a half Belmont would definitely be the smarter choice. So with that being considered, like I said, I don't blame him at all. So a little disappointed, but I can't be.
Now, in terms of race itself, right now we're looking at journalism 8-5 morning line favorite. We got Sandman, we got American Promise, and Goal Oriented also ran on the undercard of Churchill. Any one of those guys? Where's your head at? Who are you liking here, my friend?
Well, obviously, I like journalism coming out of the Derby or coming into the Derby. I like journalism coming out as well. It's very, very well deserving favorite. I don't see any reason why this horse can't win and win by open links. The one horse, Goal Oriented, like you said, did win on the undercard. Was very impressive in that victory. The other guys are kind of chasing, so we'll see what happens.
So you like not goal, journalism. Now, is journalism a single in the pick fives, the pick sixes, pick fours, or is he like just the free square, or is Invinius, who you mentioned earlier in race 10, is he the free square? If I was building a ticket.
Yeah, so to be quite honest, I'm not sure how the sequence plays out into those pick fours, fives, sixes. You probably could use either one. Journalism obviously is going to be to me, the smarter play. But if he wins, you won't get the price that you're hoping for with the payouts. But that's who I would single if you made me choose between one of the two.
Now, one of the fun things I like to do is I love to go to my friends at Bet Online and look at some of these props. And with the funnest prop, we're going to start at that before we go to the head-to-head. Horse to finish last. What horse would you pick to finish last year? We got Pay Billy is the favorite at plus 250. You see, like if you had a $25 free bet,
yep,
what horse are you picking to finish last?
Ooh, this is tough because it's going to be a little bit of speed. American Promise is going to go to the front with maybe an outside horse. The Free Billy horse is up there too, and he's coming out of the local races. If there's like I said, if there's a strong pace, I feel like one of them's got to come back. For a free $25 bet, to be honest, I would want to try to make a little bit of money and just hope that one of the favorites would not hit or finish last. So I'm going to go Sandman to finish last.
At 12-1, I like that.
Yeah, just to see if maybe you could make a little bit of money.
Now, I love betting these head-to-heads, and that we're doing, again, from our friends over at Bet Online. First head-to-head matchup, Goal Oriented against Sandman. Head-to-head, who's going to finish higher, my friend?
For me, it's going to be Goal Oriented. Like I said, he was impressive in victory the other day. He made the lead, but he really didn't have to have the lead. It just kind of came to him, albeit one of the other horses that was up there had an injury. So he kind of got left alone. But I've heard people say they think they're going to send this horse from the rail. I don't see it happening. I think Flavien Prat's going to let American Promise go and kind of settle in behind and then make a run at the top of the stretch. Sandman for me was never really a play in the Derby, and I'm not going to play him again in the Preakness. So for me, goal oriented is going to be the head to head there.
Next one, we got American Promise, Heart of Honor, even money, American Promise -140 chalk.
So American Promise, like I said, I think it's going to go to the lead. Heart of Promise is the coming in from the UAE Derby, has a little bit of late kick. I'm going to say that horse is going to enjoy, if it's a fast track, which I think it will be, that horse will beat American Promise.
Goal oriented +125 against Clever again, -165 chalk, my friend.
So they think Clever again is going to get up next to the lead and keep going. This horse wanted a mile last time and it was never really challenged on the front end. Like I said, I like goal oriented if besides journalism, so I'm going to go goal oriented.
Next one, goal oriented -115, River Thams -125.
Yeah, so before the Bluegrass, River Thames was one of my favorite horses. He had won a couple races down at Gulfstream, little shorter races, and then he kind of hung in the Bluegrass. They've been training at Belmont Park to try to get a little bit of wind under him because that's a deeper track. Now, I've been saying goal oriented is going to run second or third. I think River Thames is going to run second or third as well. Give me River Thames.
Next one, we got Pay Belly +155, against Gosker -220, laying a big price here.
Yeah, so Gosker won the Lexington, and that was at Keeneland. Came off the pace, and I've got notes on this horse that this horse has a lot of potential. 20-1 on the morning line. I don't see that happening. Maybe 12 to 15-1. I can see this horse maybe coming down the stretch and picking up pieces, maybe hitting the board for fourth. So give me him.
We've got River Thames and Clever again. River Thames -110. Clever again, another favorite, -130.
Yeah, if you're going by what I've said, I've got Journalism 1, River Thames 2 or 3, and Go Oriented 2 or 3. So I've got to kind of stick with that. I'm going to say River Thames beats Clever again.
And the last one, we got River Thames -150 chalk against the Sandman +105.
Same thing. River Thames, I feel like just Sandman's going to get all that attention and all the money from the influencer bets. Johnny Velasquez jumps on and Jose Ortiz jumps off, and I just don't see it with this horse. So I could be totally wrong, but I'm not going to be using him.
What cards always play so much at Churchill? Are we going to see big cards, but like big prices this weekend?
There are a couple tough races from what I've seen. Now, if the horses coming in that have big reputations run well, no, you're not going to see a lot of prices. But this track plays a little bit differently than Churchill does. So obviously you could see something, but I would probably lean to more of the favoritism roles this weekend.
Trey, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule, talking a little Preakness. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, my friend?
Yeah, so I've been a little silent lately, but I'm at tserver24 on X, and been putting out a chart for the big days and top pick, kind of A, B, C, however you want to look at it. I've done pretty well, and like you said, I've been on the last couple of times and made myself look good. So hopefully it continues. Yeah, make sure to give him a follow. Anytime you tag me, man, I'm always retweeting. So I appreciate that very much. I will keep retweeting for everyone. I appreciate you, and hopefully we can have you on next week, my friend. Yes, sir. Look forward to it.